Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Today is Monday, September 25th, 2023. We are gathered for our typically weekly work session, Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources. My name is John Kafalis, Commissioner Pro Tem, I believe, and I'm joined by Commissioner Stevens, as well as our County Manager, Lorenda Volker. The two big topics on our agenda this afternoon include an update, discussion solid waste diversion programs, as well as NOCO Places 2050 membership and all the good work that's happening there. So with that, I believe I'll turn it over to our director, Ms. Leslie Ellis.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Leslie Ellis, and in typical fashion, I'll probably hand it off here fairly quickly to my colleague. Dwayne Penny is here with his team, and he can do more thorough introductions of his team, Emily, Alex, and Linda, who are here to join him. He is here to share an update on the diversion programs. We're not really seeking direction today, but really just to update you on some of the great work that they're doing in their programs. So I think with no further ado, I'll pass it along to Dwayne so he can get us going.
Thank you, Leslie. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dwayne Penny, and I am the Director of Solid Waste, and I would like to introduce my team. We have Linda Hammett, who is our Household Hazardous Waste Manager, who will be providing technical assistance if I get stuck. And then we have Emily Winger, who is our lead technician, who will be presenting on our Household Hazardous Waste program. And then Alex Studi, who is our Solid Waste Manager, who is going to be providing some diversion information on what we're currently doing. And then I'll wrap it up with our future projects moving forward and some of the organizations that we'll be teaming with, just for information. And so if it's okay with the Commissioners, I'll have Emily begin with the PowerPoint. We did provide the Commissioners with a hard copy for their review, and Lorenda. And we also can send it to you.
Dwayne, before we continue with Emily, just wish to acknowledge that our chair, Commissioner Shattuck McNally, has arrived, and we'll be turning it over to her.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Apologize. Construction is becoming a daily mapping exercise, so please continue doing.
Thank you, Commissioner. And at this time, I'd like to have Emily go ahead with our PowerPoint on household hazardous waste and some of the exciting things we're doing for our residents and businesses. Emily?
Thank you, Dwayne. My name is Emily Wanger, and I'm the lead technician for the Household Hazardous Waste Program. And I'm going to share an overview of what we are doing now in household hazardous waste, and then some of the challenges we're facing and some of the challenges we may face in the future and how we're approaching them. So to give you an overview, and I know many of you are familiar with the Household Hazardous Waste Program, but we operate three programs, essentially. We collect household hazardous waste from residents, so that includes things like paint, gasoline, light bulbs, things that are hazardous in the homes or in the environment. We also offer those materials back to the public through our drop-in swap reuse program. So when items are reusable, we can give them away to the public for free. And we also provide a service for businesses in Larimer County who generate very small quantities of hazardous waste, and we operate a fee-based disposal program for them as well. And we are a small but mighty team. We have 5 full-time employees and 1 part-time temporary employee. So far in 2023, we've served 17,000 Larimer County households, and we've also served 220 Larimer County businesses, and that overall, we've diverted almost 700,000 pounds of hazardous waste from the landfill. Almost 30% of that we've been able to give away for reuse through our drop and swap reuse program, and the remaining we have been able to ship off-site for proper disposal or recycling. If we compare this year to an average year, the numbers I have up here are our 5-year average. So our 5-year average for household serves is 22,324. So we are right on track. We're at about 70% of that number right now, so that's great. And then about 1 million pounds of waste per year is our average. And we are a little bit under that. We're a little bit off target for that, but not by very much. We're at like 68%. Where we might expect to be near 72%. When we consider how to divert the hazardous waste, I'm going to give you a picture of the hierarchy of values we use when determining how to manage each different waste stream. So our first preference in managing hazardous waste is to put items back into reuse. So if they are able to be reused, that's what we'd like to do with it. So the primary way we do this is through our drop and swap reuse program. But we also, when we have gently used or unused toiletries, we donate them to community justice alternatives here at the county, but also the Murphy Center, the Loveland Resource Center, and we potentially, if it's a good outlet, maybe the behavioral health facility in the future could partner with us with that. So we aim for 30% of the waste we manage to go into reuse, and we're just about on track with that this year. Our second priority, if it can't be reused, we'd like it to go to recycling or for energy recovery. That's about 63% of the waste we manage can be managed in this way, or 90% of the waste that is not put into reuse can be managed in this way. So some examples of waste streams that are recycled include aerosols, latex paint, antifreeze, batteries, and flammable and batteries, excuse me. And then flammable liquids and used oil can go for energy recovery, meaning the energy value of them will be used for beneficial use. The remaining 3 points in our hierarchy, if things cannot be reused or recycled, first, we would like them to be converted to either a non or less hazardous compound. So a good example of this would be with acids or bases. They can be neutralized to a non-hazardous pH. If that's not an option for that waste stream, we go down to complete destruction as our preference. And that's a good option for things like PCBs or these polychlorobiphenyls, which are really persistent in the environment and have to be destroyed to a really high rate to not be toxic in the environment. Another example that sort of fits in here is fireworks and ammunition, which we partner with a bomb squad to dispose of, and I'll talk about that in a second. And our last priority, our least favored way to manage this waste is for it to go to a secure or a permitted landfill. And the biggest example of waste that goes in this direction right now are our non-hazardous liquids. Our landfill is not permitted to take non-hazardous liquids, and so we have to send them somewhere that can take them. But we've been in development of some projects to solidify these liquids with drywall at our landfill, and that's an idea for the future.
May I pause you real quick right there? I just had a quick question. I might as well I was going to ask wait till the end, but I thought maybe I'd stop you here. I was wondering about that question, since we do not take care of some of these, certain liquids or the PCBs, where does that go, and how much are we sending out to those folks, and where does it go, and what do they do with it, and do we track, we send that waste out, but we're hopefully it's being handled appropriately, so I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so they would go separate places, those two different waste streams, and the PCBs, since it's a hazardous waste, they go to a hazardous waste incinerator where they are completely destroyed or to the regulatory rate, and then we receive proof of their management in the end.
Is that in Denver, or where is that at?
It would be out of state.
Out of state?
Yeah.
And is that trucked out then, or?
Yes.
Okay. And is that a common thing for most landfills in Colorado to truck that out of state?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, all the waste.
I'm sorry, could you just for the record identify yourself? I apologize.
No, that's okay. Linda Hammett, I'm the hazardous waste manager for solid waste. And all the waste that we ship off-site, whether it has to go for complete destruction or energy recovery, it gets manifested. And then those manifests, when they hit the facility that we send the waste to, that once they receive that waste, they have to sign that it's been received. For the PCB waste or some other dioxin wastes, which are persistent pesticides, they have to go to there's 2 incinerators that can accept them, and they have to incinerate them to 99.99's destruction. One of them is in Canada, and the other's up in Washington State.
That's helpful. Thank you very much. I learned something new today, so thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. The other thing we look at when we determine how to manage our waste is how can we be inclusive and partner and be collaborative in our partnerships. So one of the ways we do that is through donating the toiletries when we're able to. We also work with a local business. A good example of that is the person who manages our fire extinguishers is a local business owner. We also strive to be inclusive by providing information in both English and Spanish. And then we also maintain relationships with other hazardous waste facilities, regionally and nationally. One of the partnerships that I'd like to highlight is our partnership with the Larimer County Bomb Squad, who manage our ammunition and fireworks. We provide the bomb squad a place to do practice and drills at the landfill, and in return, they manage these waste streams. So now I'll move on to talking about some of the issues that we're facing, or the challenges, and what we've been doing about them. So as you know, I'm sure, batteries are a big upcoming and present challenge for us at the landfill and at hazardous waste. These batteries pose fire risk in people's homes, businesses, and at our landfill. And one of the challenges with this issue is that recycling infrastructure doesn't exist at scale to manage these, especially the larger batteries from electric vehicles and e-bikes. Nationally, there isn't quite the capacity that we probably need for the coming challenge of these batteries. And the other issue that we face is that these fires are different from other fires, and so first responders are struggling to come up with best practices and manage these fires. And one of the things that we've learned is that the smoke from these fires can at times be quite toxic and harmful to health. So things that we've been doing so far, one of the things that we're really excited about and see as a good solution to this battery issue is to work on extended producer responsibility legislation at the state level. And so we are currently, the Recycle Colorado's policy committee is drafting some legislation, and we've been helping in an advisory capacity with that work. But we've also increased the way we can collect batteries. So we've done some satellite collections in Estes Park, which is, you can see in that first picture there, that's at the Estes Park Library. We also have provided battery collection in Larimer County break rooms for Larimer County employees. And we've been working on doing outreach and education around the topic in Larimer County. And so here's a picture of the batteries we've collected so far, or in the last few years. You can see our battery collection numbers have increased. But you can also see here that batteries are very recyclable, and there's a lot of materials that can be recovered from them. So I'll talk about a few more challenges just quickly. One of the challenges that we've been facing is rising costs in this field, and that is tied to a number of reasons, but in industry specific to hazardous waste, there are very few hazardous waste incinerators in the United States, and during COVID, they shut down due to the pandemic, and then faced staff shortages and scheduled maintenance as well, made for a backlog of hazardous waste that these incinerators need to work through. So we see as one solution to these rising costs is to promote the extended producer responsibility legislation at the state level. There are examples in other states and in Colorado of ways that this type of legislation has worked for hazardous materials. So particularly in Colorado, latex paint is a good example of that. Other challenges we may face include growing population requiring more capacity for our program. And then one, not necessarily challenge, but an area that our program would like to grow in the future is in environmental justice. And we'd really like to gain a picture of our current level of service and understand if there are any gaps in the way we're offering service to our community. So I'll just sum up by saying that we are a really crucial service in our hazardous waste program. We help to keep the environment clean, and we also provide a really crucial outlet for risky or difficult to dispose of waste streams. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. It was really informative. Thank you. Okay, Dwayne, who's got?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to, Commissioner Capalas has a question?
Commissioner Kafas, didn't see your hand. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Emily. I thought it would be an appropriate time to ask a question or two before we transition into what you have to share. Regarding the slide that shows the bar graphs, innovative solutions to batteries, I'm interpreting it as saying that in 2022, 13% of the batteries, thank you, are being properly recycled. Does that mean that 87% are winding up in the landfill?
Thank you for your question. The percentages across the bottom indicate the percentage increase in collection by weight from the previous year. So in 2022, we collected 13% more batteries by weight than we had in 2021. And I'll add that those numbers do not include the weight of lead acid batteries. It's just the alkaline, lithium, primary, and damaged or recycled or rechargeable batteries, excuse me.
So does that mean that compared to other communities, we're doing a good job of making sure that batteries, lithium batteries and other types of batteries don't end up in the landfill?
I hope so, but these numbers don't reflect what other communities are doing. Does that answer your question?
I'm just wanting to know how much of the batteries are going in the landfill. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Commissioner, I would like to speak on that a little bit. But
Of course, thank you, Emily. Thank you.
with the numbers that we're seeing here with the increase through our education program and the fires and talking with the fire department about stuff like this, we have incorporated this into our education center where we go out and we speak to students and we have tours, tens of thousands of them, by the way, a year. And this is a part of our program where we do not throw batteries away. And we are seeing an increase in what we're collecting. And so I think that answers a little bit of the question. We do feel like we need to get out to people a little bit more about the dangers of storing batteries in their homes, especially when we have an outlet. It's important to get these batteries out of your homes. I don't want anybody to panic, but just don't store them and leave them lay around when we have an outlet, because we take them and we recycle them. And so with the numbers increasing, from 2019 to 2022, that's significant. That's doubled the amount of batteries we've collected. And one thing I would like to say in Estes Park, our first spring collection program, we collected 700 pounds of batteries during that. It was about a 3-hour window. And so we did it again this past fall on a Saturday, and it was just as successful. So I think by getting the word out and talking about the hazards of batteries, I think this is going to be helpful for our residents. And it's something we really want to push hard to make sure people are aware that they can bring them to us.
I was going to ask a follow-up question. Dwayne, is there any way to know how many batteries go into the landfill versus those that get diverted? Do you have a sense of that? Do we have that data?
I don't think we have that exact data because a lot of times batteries are so small, they get put into the waste stream and we never see it unless we have a battery that causes a fire, which unfortunately we have a lot of those. And that's how we find out that we're having a bigger problem. Some of the e-bikes, which are really big batteries, like Emily was talking about, if we work with the extended producer responsibility, the manufacturers that produce them provide a proper disposal, I think that would help a lot. But when people don't have that, they throw them in the garbage and they think it's recycling, and it's not. And so because they're so small, Leslie, we really don't know how to track that. But by seeing the numbers increase significantly like this, we feel like we're having an impact.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I guess next step, unless there are any other questions before we move on?
No, thank you.
So Alex is going to give a fairly quick review of what we're doing with diversion at the landfill today. Our HHW, we're very proud of those numbers and the hard work they do. We also are starting to get on track with some really exciting diversion, and Alex is going to go through it in the next couple of minutes. Alex, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Studi. I'm a solid waste manager at the Larimer County Landfill. And today I want to briefly touch over, for the sake of time, the diversion, disposal, and direction forward for the solid waste department and some of the programs that we currently have in place. So to start, I kind of want to touch on why recycle or why divert materials from the landfill, some of the current diversion programs, some of the selected materials that we divert, and then the future diversion opportunities. So in alignment with the county's climate smart and future ready initiatives, we want to reduce, recycle, and reuse as much as possible. And we know that waste generation contributes to greenhouse gases, and anything that we can do to recycle that material is going to help lower our emissions. So last year in 2022, we recognized that mattresses were a pretty significant waste stream that we were seeing at the landfill, and they do pose a risk to damage our heavy equipment. They don't compact well. So we initiated a separate fee, and we received over 13,000 mattresses and box springs last year alone. So this created us to really look at the adaptability of our market and what we could do to improve our operations. So we pursued recycling mattress program that we started in June of this year. We're anticipating to be able to recycle at about 70% of the mattresses and box springs, hopefully more than we receive. And to put that a little bit into context, that's about over 5,700 cubic yards or 288 less trash trucks by volume a year that would be going to the landfill. And to take that one step further, it'll be about 250 tons of materials. That's heavier than 4 of our 836K CAT compactors. And if you laid those mattresses end over end, it's about 17 miles, or from here to the landfill almost 3 times. And if you stack those mattresses on top of one another, that's about a 2.5 mile stack tall of mattresses. So looking at where the progress of the program so far is, we started in mid-June, and until about a week ago, we have recycled about 3,000 pieces or mattresses and box springs. That's about 76 tons and over 1,700 cubic yards. And really, when we looked at recycling, it's not only more economical friendly to recycle them, but also it's a lot more sustainable from an environmental standpoint to have the metal, the fabric, and the textile recycled. And any of the funds that are being generated from the mattress recycling is going to be put back into the program, as well as other diversion programs. So the partnership that we've created is with the company Springback Colorado, and they really work to employ disenfranchised men and women in Colorado out of the criminal justice department. They strive to recycle over 90% of a mattress, and they're really doing their part to help find a market for these different materials instead of being disposed of in the landfill. We toured their shop in Denver. Every good shop has a shop dog. He's allowed to wreck whatever he wants and tear it up. So that was great to see. So when they break down the mattresses, they separate it by material. Like I was saying, the foam, metal, and textile are the primary components. And you might wonder a little bit about what those get turned into. The foam gets turned into carpet underlayment laminate, and the metal, scrap metal. So here's a photo of what our facility looks like. It's a pretty simple process to load the mattresses into a 53-foot trailer, and we're doing about 200 to 300 a week. To switch gears a little bit to talk about some other materials that we're diverting from the landfill, single stream recycling is our number one based on volume and tonnage, followed by green waste, hazardous waste, and so on. So currently the landfill is at about a 13% diversion rate by weight.
Yes, please, Commissioner Stevens.
I don't know what white goods are.
Yeah, so white goods are kind of how we refer to appliances, your washer and dryer, refrigerator. Yeah, and there's a slight breakdown on the right side for Freon units, appliances. And there's a little bit more after this slide. So here's a picture of our current recycle center. Note the volume of cardboard. There's a short video, so I'll just briefly mention that material is either going to go through a star screen disc sorter to separate the cardboard at our current facility, or it is going to be put on a trailer and direct hauled to Denver to be further processed. This is what the end product material is going to look like when the cardboard, mixed paper, or office paper is baled and ready to be shipped to market. We'll see if this video works. So here's a video of our facility in action. You can see a front end loader loading up this conveyor belt that feeds up to these two pickers, and they are pulling anything that is non-recyclable that is going to potentially cause damage to the machines. Something that I like to call wish cycling, that people think, might as well put it in the recycling to hope that it gets to the right place. But my recommendation is, when in doubt, throw it out, because it could cause issues further along in the process. So the smaller material falls through the disc screen that you saw, the bottles, tubs, jugs, and glass, and this is fed to the transfer trailer.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, so the next material is green waste. So we collect logs, branches, leaves, yard trimmings, and kiln dried wood, such as pallets as well. And the tonnage is represented there, over 4,600 tons. We also accept tires. We collected about 5,000 tires last year, and currently we're approved to grind that tire in our shredder and use it as alternative daily cover. So we're approved through the state of Colorado to use that to cover the landfill waste. As mentioned, we receive over 2,000 refrigerators. That Freon is pumped out of the machines and recycled, and then we're allowed to recycle the metal as normal. And then with that, I will transition and hand it over to Dwayne Penny to talk about future diversion opportunities.
Before we transition, Dwayne, Commissioner Kafalis has a question.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Let's see. Regarding the plastic recycling, what is the recommendation? I'm always confused about when you have a plastic bottle that you're going to recycle and you have the cap. And I think, well, take the cap off because they're going to smash the plastic bottle, and it would be easier to do that if the cap was off. So what is the recommendation regarding that? And could you remind us again what the three number plastics are that we can't recycle,
Yes.
please?
Yes. So the first question is we ask people to leave the lids on their PET bottles, and the reason is the lids are made out of HDPE plastic, and even though they're small and a lot of them get lost in the process, they do end up getting recycled. But we get asked that question quite a bit, and so it's a good question. Excuse me. I got a frog in my throat.
So keep the caps on.
Excuse me. Keep the caps on. And then the second one, 3, 6, and 7 are the plastics that do not have recycling markets. And we're always trying to work with different manufacturers. That's why the EPR program is going to be hopefully much better for that.
May I ask one more holistic question, not just to make sure I'm doing this right? I know that we'll be talking a lot more moving forward, maybe you'll get into it, regarding yard waste. But related to that, Dwayne and colleagues, have we considered it all? So more and more people are doing gardening, more and more people have a lot of plant material, and the material composts better if it's broken up. And you can go out and buy a plant shredder or perhaps a chipper, a smaller scale chipper for residential. But has there ever been any consideration for like neighborhood, some type of thing that would incentivize folks to do all this shredding and chipping so they can just not put it out on the street, but instead take care of it themselves, which is what I try to do. But the shredder that I have is, even the thicker sunflower stalks are really hard to break up. So I guess the question is, have we considered, or is that something to consider in the future, a way to provide this type of equipment, for neighborhoods, to incentivize keeping the stuff in our backyards and composting it properly and putting it back into the earth? And I know we have that, I think we're looking at it in terms of burners or wood chippers up in the mountains, how that can be shared. Does that make any kind of sense, Dwayne?
Well, sure it does. I think, we always look at programs like that. How can we take the products that the residents have, and through minimal expense and safety, can we give it back? And so one of the things, and it's an excellent transition into what I'll be talking about, but I want to make sure I answer the question. We recently, through the RFP process that we went through last year on the diversion and emerging technologies, we've been looking for technologies in different ways to help with not only our landfill waste and the waste that you're talking about, Commissioner, with yard waste, but also forestry waste and some of the bigger waste streams that we have that are a problem in not only Larimer County, but in Colorado. And so if I may, we have 4 partnerships that we're in the process of negotiating with, and one of them is A1 Organics, the largest composter in Colorado, and we are working to do a green waste program with them at our landfill. And so we'll just begin to really get into a really good green waste program, and then maybe we'll be able to extend it and do more, like some of the things that you just asked about, or maybe we can shred the material out there and give some of the mulch away to people that can use it. And so I think we always want to look at those types of programs. A1 Organics is the largest composter in Colorado and probably a few state area. And they do a lot of composting with food waste and different types of yard waste and wood waste. They do different things. So we're really excited about that partnership. We're just beginning discussions with them. And then the next one, and I'll get back on the PowerPoint. Biochar Now. Biochar Now is an exciting technology through pyrolysis, which is kettles that they use, and through pyrolysis they close the kettles, it's airtight, and they process and develop a pure wood or pure carbon out of the wood. Now, one of the things that was really exciting about talking with them is not only can we put wood in there like dimensional lumber, but we can also do forestry waste like slash and stuff like that. And so we're pretty excited about that potential relationship. So Biochar Now, that's number 2. And then number 3, plasma development. Plasma development is an up-and-coming technology that we're really excited about. This is a gasification, really an exciting one. They have a 2-stage process that they use, and when you gasify the material, it's similar to what happens at biochar, but they create a renewable natural gas, and they can do it on a very large level. And so that renewable natural gas can be put back into the pipeline. And of course, at the quantities that we're talking, it would be interesting to look at for future energy for PRPA to help them with their 2030 renewable goals. So we're excited about these types of technologies, and organic waste, forestry waste, those types of materials would be good feedstocks for a gasifier. So more to come on that as we begin these discussions with these companies. And then lastly, but certainly not least, Energia. This is a really exciting company. Their specialty is anaerobic digesters, and they have a different kind of working models where they build, own, operate, but they also are very good with food waste. They can take commercial food waste, source separate it, and use the digester from one of the municipalities that's already in operation, and build a gas cleanup system on their facility and share it with them. So we really like that potential to handle the food waste versus it going into the landfill. And then the second thing that's got us really excited about this company is they can take MSW and put it through one of their press processes, and they extract the organic material, and they can haul it to a wastewater treatment plant, anaerobic digester, and process the material. And so there's a lot of benefits to this, their process. The other thing, after they squeeze the material out, or before they do it, they take out the recyclables and the inerts, and then after they squeeze the organics out, they leave a wet fraction and a dry fraction, and that dry fraction can be put into a gasifier as a feedstock. And so these technologies can feed off each other. So that's the direction we're headed, to help with not only forestry waste, but landfill diversion and organics, keeping organics out of the landfill.
Thank you, Dwayne. That's really exciting, and great to hear about the progress and that we can talk about these things in our meeting today. And I believe the biochar now is located in Berthoud, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of a regional opportunity in business as well, so that's exciting to hear. But I appreciate the presentation. I'm really extremely excited about this this news and this all this partnerships that we're looking at and meeting our diversion goals. I'm sure my colleagues have some questions as well. I'll start with Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, thank you all for the presentations. I think this is really exciting news. There's a lot of really cool things going on, and so and reminding people to recycle those batteries, because I'm imagining if we're getting about 13,000 batteries, is that what the number was,
Yeah.
roughly?
Yeah, I believe it's 13,000 pounds,
Yeah.
excluding auto batteries.
Oh, 13,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, 13,000 batteries doesn't sound like that, but 13,000 pounds sounds better. My question is about the EPR legislation. Is there something that we think is pending in the next year for, getting, because obviously the best thing we can do is that the producers of some of these materials are being more responsible about what kind of materials they use for packaging and that kind of thing. So is there anything on the horizon that we should be looking at, or is there somebody we should be pushing to carry some legislation?
Yes, Commissioner, I can answer that question. So the EPR, Extended Producer's Responsibility for Recycling, is well underway. There was a bill passed. I can't recall the name of the bill, but I'll get that information up on the table. It was passed 2 years ago that supports that legislation moving forward. And they are now, meaning the state who is supporting that with all of their regional partners, which is all of us, we're starting to get into the granular of that now. So we just got an email to do a survey of our recycling center and our recycling activities, which is going to help fuel that and move that forward. So we're really excited about that, to see where that program goes. They have formed a committee. It's Circular Alliance, and out of that EPR legislation, they formed a committee, and this committee is now looking at the bigger picture. And this is actually manufacturers that got together and are going to find ways to support this. So it is moving forward, and I will get that information and get it up to date and get it forward to you soon.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we'd like to, encourage that from our legislators and, our producers across the state, that, if we don't have to deal with some of these items in the landfill or in our solid waste systems, then that would be the best option, right? Is to
Yes.
not have to deal with it in the first place.
Yes.
And then just, I think this is such a great presentation, and I don't know if our municipal partners are listening, so is this something we can share? Because I think they'd love to see some of those diversion numbers and just what we're contemplating for the future and what we're doing now, and maybe they can help us get the word out on the batteries. I loved the battery program that the kids did, like the little, poster contest or magnet contest or whatever it was last year. I thought that was a really neat, and, I do think that the little people in our lives often help us to do the right thing. whether, it's in this
Yep.
field or other health kind of things. And so I think that that's a great way to get at a problem, because I think of the things that we came home and told our parents to stop smoking and doing all this
Yeah.
stuff, right? I mean, they could be our best allies in some of these movements to recycle. So thank you very much for all your work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Stevens. I wanted to just say, when I was at the National Conference, National Association of Counties Conference this summer, I sit on the Energy, Environment, and Land Use Steering Committee, and there was a presentation about end product responsibility and the circular, forgot that there's circular,
Alliance.
but it's a different name, circular economy. And thank you. And the PepsiCo, they had the PepsiCo, I actually got to talk to him later on in the evening, commended Colorado for leading the way and being the exemplar. He said that in the meeting several times for all of the counties across the country, that Colorado was the exemplar with that legislation, and really the exemplar model to use for going forward for everyone to try to catch up with what Colorado was doing. So it sounds like we're kind of leading the way in Colorado. So I thought that was really exciting, and he mentioned it several times and emphasized that the legislation was a great model and exemplar in the effort. So I thought that was really encouraging. I don't think that should slow us down. We should just keep rolling, but I thought that was something to note. But I didn't know if I had told you that before, but I took some pictures of that slide. It was pretty cool, and to hear from a major corporation like PepsiCo, I thought that was impressive. So thanks for letting me share that. Commissioner Kofos, did you have some questions?
I do not have any questions at this time. Just want to say thank you very much for your excellent work and your due diligence. This business of solid waste management is a critical part of our infrastructure, and been working on this, and I think we're making great progress.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to thank you for the presentation. I've just been waiting for us to be able to talk about these things and work on our diversion and these things like biochar with the forest health and some of the things I'm working on. We've just been chomping at the bit to figure out what to do with all this woody biomass, and some of these other diversion things are going to be really helpful. And so I really appreciate the presentation. I think it was great, and I'm hoping whoever's listening in, including our media partners, that they'll share all this great information. So thank you, Dwayne and team. Great information, great work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you very much, commissioners.
Okay, so now we're moving on to
Yes.
NOCO Places 2050, or NOCO Partners.
Yeah, and
Dalen.
Figgs is going to come join us and tell us more about the memorandum of understanding with multiple partners. So I'll hand it over to Dalen. Okay. Or 10. Yeah.
Try to be brief here.
We knew we had a packed agenda today.
So what I have today is a 2023 update from NOCO Places NOV. As you know, NOCO started in 2019 and operated under a memorandum of understanding.
Just a reminder to use the microphone, please.
Microphone on for that. Thank you. And so we operate under a memorandum of understanding that was developed in 2019. But a lot of the work that we do doesn't align well with the memorandum now. We've matured and we've sort of polished the work we do. And even though the memorandum expires in fall of 2024, we opted to bring it forward now to really reflect the work that we're doing. And so today I want to sort of point out the material differences in the MOUs, get guidance, and if we all agree that this is the memorandum we support, I'd like to bring it to a consent agenda in the very near future. The other thing I'd like to do is just provide a very quick update on a couple of outcomes or products we're working on for NOCO that I think are pretty fun to talk about. So I want to start first with who is NOCO, and it is 8 public land agencies in a 5-county region. You see them here, and really reflects that upper area of Colorado where we're seeing a lot of population growth and change in our communities. The mission is very simple. It's really struggling with this concept of how do we conserve the landscapes around us, that natural and cultural resource values, while still providing that equitable and high-quality recreation experience we've come to love. Very simple mission, but a very difficult one to actually achieve. So a little background. As I mentioned before, we originally formed in 2019, and it was an outgrowth of the Northern Front Range Recreational Sport Shooting Management Partnership, a very long name for a group of folks who got together to work on recreation shooting in the National Forest and some challenges associated with that. As that work was sort of wrapping up, we also understood that our work really wasn't done. We were seeing impacts from visitation across that 5-county region, and impacts to the recreational experience as well. And so we decided to sort of take on that challenge as well. Had a great working relationship with the partners, same partners that are NOCO now. And from that, we formed a group called NOCO Places 2050, and again, another very long name. Northern Colorado People, Land, Access, Conservation, Ecosystem, and Sustainability. We call it NOCO for short. And I'll probably go back and forth between NOCO Places and NOCO, but basically they're the one and the same. And we work under that memorandum that was signed in 2019. And the reason for the change I sort of touched upon is NOCO has reframed itself a little bit. We're less of a, here's what we want to do. We're actually now producing products and really have fine-tuned some of the work we do. One of the framing that has changed is we initially focused on population growth, and I even referenced that earlier. We would provide the stats of how the counties were growing between now and 2050, but once we really started thinking about it and looking at some of the information we had, it's more than that. It's also those who choose to travel to this area to enjoy the outdoors. So it really is just that increased demand for our recreation experience we provide in Northern Colorado. We don't care where you live, it's just the impacts are the same once you get here. The other thing that has changed is we initially sort of stated the purpose was to create this long-term recreation management strategy, and it really isn't that anymore. That's part of it, and that's one of the things we want to do, but it's also really focusing on how do we get there. It's, collaborating cross-boundary on things like communication, information sharing, some long-term planning around, the nature-based activities that occur up here. We don't think of it as recreation in a very traditional way anymore. It's really more of how do people just want to interact with nature without really defining it in certain ways. And then also creating a conservation strategy around that. Again, back to that core mission of how do we protect these conservation values while really providing this recreation experience that's really high quality. Back in 19, the MOU reflected some very early stage development of where we were at the time. They were kind of vague and they were kind of limited because we really didn't know what we were going to do yet. So, we have, I'll just see here, I won't read through them, but basically some very fundamental concepts. As we began to work on this in earnest and really think about how do we achieve this mission, the work that we're doing is now much more refined. And so in the 2023 MOU focuses on really providing resources to the NOCO effort, not just getting together and talking about things we want to do, but actually providing resources to make them happen. Technical staff, work that we're doing in our jurisdictions, a lot of our staff now, it isn't just myself showing up to meetings or Commissioner Shattuck McNally participating. We have really deeper down in our staff working on products we're developing as a NOCO planning effort. We are working on products that help us get toward that long-term conservation and nature-based recreation strategies. We're not really thinking only about recreation management, but we recognize the problem is really how do we communicate, how do we build common platforms to make decisions with, what are the common standards of the decision-making we want to make, and so on and so forth. So it really has refined quite a bit. Because the representative of NOCO has changed, it's no longer just anyone who can attend. It really is someone who can represent the agencies involved with decision-making. So I'm currently the designated representative. Commissioner Shattuck McNally participates as well. My counterparts from Jefferson and Boulder also are the representatives, and then some elected officials in Clear Creek and Gilpin. They don't have open space programs. And then the forest supervisor and the superintendent for the national park are those. So it really is folks who can enter the room with the ability to think about how they implement things on the ground. We're really collaborating on regional information bases, and I'll show you a couple here in a bit. but really map some information, again, coming up with common platforms for decision-making purposes. We share a lot of ideas, we share a lot of data. One of the great values of participating in NOCO is there's 8 entities with a lot of experience, and we get a lot of really smart people in the room to problem solve, and it's really fun to learn from others' experience along the way. And then we've also really ventured out quite a bit with common messaging, and to really think about how do we communicate to all those who are coming to this region to recreate or experience the outdoors, and message around, land stewardship, leave no trace, public safety, the enjoyment of the outdoors, and things of that nature. So the idea was if you go to Rocky Mountain National Park, you'll see a message that's very similar if you go to Horsetooth Mountain or if you go to open space in Boulder County. So really trying to get that message across in a very concise and consistent way so that we're not telling communities to do things differently. And so those are the basic material changes to the MOU, and then if we can talk about those now, or I can finish with some of the products that we've been developing and where we're going, and I'll leave if there's any questions. This might be
Is there
a
any
good break.
questions, colleagues?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, some of the areas of focus we're working on now is EDI, and that came up all the time since 2019 moving forward, is how do we make sure outdoors is open to everyone and everyone feels welcome. So we have a subcommittee, again, all the 8 partners plus partners from outside of NOCO that are working on helping us do that. So you see here we have a lot of enhanced relationships with some of the groups from underrepresented communities. We work with Next 100, which is a BIPOC organization of outdoor professionals and enthusiasts, to really help us understand barriers that they've seen and witnessed. We really view our actions through the equity lens as an executive committee. We make a point to do that. And then really are working continuously on really how do we get to the next steps. And so we're working within DNR here at Larimer County to do this as well. And there's some programs we'll be rolling forward that reflect this work. Common messaging, it's all bilingual, and we have, again, the power of this organization. We were able to get some very high-quality videos taking. Jefferson County graciously donated some time and resources, really focusing around leave no trace, public safety, and then one key message around why do people go outdoors, the value of open space and the value of recreation and what they gain from it. They're great video series. We're getting a lot of clicks, I suppose. And it's been, again, something we wouldn't have been able to have done on our own just because of the resources we didn't have available. Another product we recently developed is a conservation map, and this is using information across the counties within the Colorado Natural Heritage Program's Codex database, and it's a Colorado Conservation Data Explorer. And these are natural resource values from data that we've all collected over the years on properties across Larimer County, Jefferson County, Boulder, all this planning area. And what it does is it really provides a common platform for decision making. So the darker the blue, the higher the conservation value of that area. So if you think about using a map like this for decision making, you may decide additional recreational infrastructure may not want to be located in a really dark blue spot. Or maybe it does if that's the experience you want to provide. And so it really provides a common platform. The other thing that's unique about this map or fun about this map, it has environmental equity built into it. There's a layer that gets at environmental justice. There's a climate resiliency component to it, plus all the data of all the rare and special things that are in our landscape. So it's a very, very valuable tool that we developed. One thing we're also sort of a next step is going out to the public with all this information, and this will be a common platform that we speak to of really understanding what the values of the community are, of how do you want us to manage this going forward for the next 20 years? I mean, what are the trade-offs we're willing to take or not take? How do you want to interact with this landscape, and then how do we provide that as land managers? One thing that's not shown, it's still under development, is really the public access map. There's a similar database that's available called CoTrex, and it has all the trails and trailheads and things of that nature that we can lay across this same landscape and look at what we have. And there's some other data layers we can pull into it as well. So again, a very useful map to help really sort of engage the public in a conversation around how we want to do this. And so next steps, again, in 2024, we have a grant to do stakeholder focus groups and really talk about all this information and better understand how do we meet that mission statement of creating this conservation network and protection while still providing equitable and high-quality access. We want to talk about that. So we're inviting groups and organizations, and this is really across the spectrum of the communities, those underrepresented organizations, landowners, anything we can think about, or any group of folks we can think about are on the list, and we're continuing to build that list. And it's still under development. We're not quite sure how we want to do it, if it'll be county-specific or it'll be group-specific, maybe a little of both, but we'll kick off this effort this fall and into the winter. It's going to be a really exciting conversation. I'm looking forward to it. We'll learn a lot. And then last, NOCO Places 2050 it's a website that we host. It's got a great amount of information on it. All the outreach, all the common messaging is on that as well. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dalen. Super excited to be involved with this group, and I love all the videos and the common messaging with those videos and how there's like 4 different counties within one video sharing the same messaging. That's really exciting, especially in 2 languages. It's really important. And of course, you probably know I'm a big yes and super supportive of this. And I have to just continually express my geekiness and wonkiness about Codex. I think it's a fantastic tool. I think it's an excellent tool, an important tool for any elected leader to be looking at it to use when you're making land use decisions. I think it's critical for a lot of folks to be using this in the future of land use and planning and all kinds of things. So with that, colleagues, do you have anything you'd like to say, direction for Dalen? I'm all in. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any comments or direction? Are you okay with us moving on with the MOU?
Yeah, I think, thank you for explaining why the MOU needs to be updated. Certainly support, revising an MOU that no longer kind of functions the way it needs to, and really excited to hear about what's happening in the future and those common standards around, just getting everybody on the same page and having these mapping tools that really can help us refine our decision-making, but that can also help the public. So I love the direction, and yeah, happy to support the revised MOU. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kafalis.
Just to say thank you for your work and sticking with the group since the beginning, 2019. And I, too, support the direction regarding the updating of the MOU.
Thank you. Dalen, if we could get those slides that you shared, I thought there was some good information on that. That would be great.
Yep, happy
Awesome.
to do that. And thank you. I will sign it up for consent agenda in the very near future.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for being here, Dalen. So now we're moving on to our Community Development Director update. Hello, Rebecca. What you got for us?
Hello, Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director. I'll keep it brief and focused on a couple of the highest priority items, and I'll follow up with some items over email as well, since we're a little short on time today. We have a land use hearing at 3 p.m. I've left packets with the presentations and memos on both of the discussion items for you there, some last minute reading. We are anticipating a substantial amount of public participation this afternoon. And the agenda contains one tabled discussion item from our last hearing that will be heard, and then a new discussion item. There's also a consent item on the agenda that we are going to recommend tabling this afternoon. And we can provide a little bit more explanation prior to the hearing, but there's kind of an order of operations that needs to happen with that item that got a little out of sequence. So there's a right-of-way vacation that would need to occur before that amended plat that's on the consent agenda can be heard. Second update I wanted to provide, I believe Leslie and Aaliyah Rodriguez provided an update last week on the Strong Communities grant that we plan to pursue, which would provide funding to explore implementation of some land use best practices and supportive housing. We are planning to pursue that grant and hoping to seek a letter of support from you all. However, the timing is very tight. The grant application is due next Monday, and we do not have that letter of support on your admin matters agenda for tomorrow. So our proposal would be to have a letter of support that comes from the chair of the board individually, just due to the tight timing, and that would be acceptable as a form of support for that grant application if this board is okay with that.
So I'm okay with that and support that. Commissioner Stevens?
Yeah, I want to support no matter who signs it, so yes, it's fine with me.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Finally, one quick update. We have an item that will be coming on your admin matters agenda for next week. It's an assessment and order related to a code compliance case. This is something that was pursuant to the rubbish ordinance. Code compliance went out and cleaned up a property. We then bill back for those cleanup costs, and we have not received payment for those costs. And so this is a follow-on action, essentially to place a lien on the property for the amount of the cleanup costs, which is around $10,000. So just wanted to provide a heads up that will be coming on your admin matters agenda next week.
Thank you, Rebecca, and I appreciate all those updates. Colleagues, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you, Rebecca. And Leslie, do we have any complete community planning, infrastructure, and resources updates from you?
Yes, and I realize we're inching past time here, so I'll be very brief. One is that you did receive a request to just give your conceptual support for this Estes Valley Habitat Assessment update that came from Bob Levitt in the Estes Valley on behalf of the Estes Valley Watershed Coalition. And just by a bit of context, this was something that the group had discussed doing last year during the comprehensive plan, and staff had supported it at that time. And I think what they're proposing to do is basically to update the data that was created in 2008. And so I just wanted to bring it to the full board so that you could potentially give a thumbs up if that's something that you're supportive of, and then we'll let him know.
Thank you, and I talked to him and personally showed up my community conversation, but this is something that we talked at length during the comprehensive plan meetings that I went to all of last year, and so I was supportive of it then. I'm so supportive. I think it needs to be updated from 2008. It's a critically needed tool for moving forward in that plan. Commissioner Gonzalez, do you support that?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Tell Bob, thank you, and thank you, Leslie, for following up on that.
You bet. And then also wanted to let you know that the County Road 18 Pole Hill transfer of deed is on the agenda tomorrow on the consent agenda. Engineering held a public meeting last week. It was very well attended. There were a lot of issues that came up at that meeting that really go beyond what's being proposed tomorrow. So it's possible you'll hear from some members of the public tomorrow, but know also that engineering is working toward putting a public meeting together to address many of those other issues regarding signage and road maintenance and trespassing issues and all of the things that came up at that meeting. So that's in progress also. They're also working on some answers to questions and information that can be published on the webpage and that sort of thing. So it is possible you'll get some comments, but really that transfer is a fairly housekeeping type of change. It doesn't substantially change the purpose or the maintenance of the road or any of the functionality of the road. So in case you have any questions about that. And I'm happy to answer any other questions should you have them today.
Thank you, and I look forward to hearing more about that update, about that meeting. I know that was close to my neighborhood, so I will have some questions later. Commissioner Foster, any other questions or follow-up on that? Commissioner Stevens? Okay.
Okay.
Well,
With that, I'll wrap up for today. Thank you very much.
all right, well, we appreciate all of you and all the great information today, and at 2:34, we are adjourned.